Chapter 11. Panonia. The royal vessel, Angeline, was moored at a small fishing village along the northern Mediterranean coast. Known as Lopar, the settlement rose from a rugged landscape of towering mountains, their peaks faintly dusted with snow, a sign of how far north this outpost lay. Lopar, barely emerging from humanity's so-called Golden Age, boasted little sophistication. Its founders had chosen this region long ago to escape the world's tangled webs. Here, privacy and a self-contained way of life prevailed. The homes, all carved from marble and stone, lined a northern route in order to capture as much warmth as possible in winter while remaining pleasantly cool in summer. As Inanna and her devoted retinue disembarked from the ship, local townsfolk watched from a distance, cautious yet openly curious. Further up the pier, Pharaoh Seti of Egypt was shaking hands with villagers in an easy, amiable fashion. Intrigued, Inanna paused to watch him. Despite these being neither his people nor ones who recognized his status, he still engaged them with a gentle warmth, an earnest courtesy she rarely practiced herself. Her fingers drifted to the pocket that held her grandmother's locket. Inanna withdrew it and slipped it on, silently reaffirming her purpose. A short distance away, 4 figures dressed in attire she loosely termed Egyptian gathered around Seti. Inanna waved Peleos on. "Go ahead, I'll follow shortly," she told him. "Yes, Nin," Peleos answered, bowing his head. "We'll set up transport arrangements and meet on the northern edge of Lopar." Inanna stepped over to the small group just as Seti finished chatting with a fisherman. He turned, gesturing expansively. "Inanna, perfect timing," he said. "These are 4 members of the Brotherhood of the Serpent." She offered them a friendly smile. The Brotherhood, from what she knew, placed great value on achieving perfection in all pursuits, a vestige of an older era that had somehow endured. These members share the same organization that Ares is a part of, although that was unknown to Inanna. "Pleased to meet you," she said, studying them closely. Seti introduced them in turn. "Here is Ra, who leads this contingent. Next to him, Isis, our finest biologist and explorer. She has traveled to every continent. Beside her is Osiris, an expert fighter and philosopher. And this is Horus, among the best warriors in the world. He's trained in 7 different nations." Each bowed politely. "I had no idea I would be meeting such accomplished members of the Brotherhood," Inanna remarked, genuinely impressed. "They're to join you, Inanna," the pharaoh explained. "A gift from Egypt, you might say. 4 of our most resourceful minds and strongest hands to support your mission." Inanna's eyes widened. "Why don't you come?" she asked, her curiosity getting the better of her. "You seem perfectly at ease so far from Cairo." Seti smile was disarmingly open. He extended his hand in a sign of respect. "I'm Pharaoh. My place is with my people. Though I admire the Brotherhood's life, as these 4 do, my responsibility is to rule. Perhaps in another life I might have chosen differently." Inanna clasped his hand in response. "Thank you for travelling with me this far. I promise I'll bring your companions home safely." He gave a gentle laugh. "They will guard and guide you, but remember, this may be your life's calling, not theirs." As Seti made his way back to the docks, Inanna watched his ship depart. A fleeting sense of wistfulness stirred in her. Then she turned to the Brotherhood. Ra, Isis, Osiris, and Horus. "I'm grateful for your help," she said quietly. "I'll do my best to heed your advice and weigh my decisions for the good of everyone." Isis spoke up. "We're here to ensure you reach Gunaya Sharia, ideally before your sister inflicts more suffering. It won't be easy, but we're committed." "Then let's move on," Ra said briskly, already striding to catch up with Inanna's assembled followers. Together, they proceeded to the northern outskirts of Lopar, where the 100 travellers waited near a steep embankment. Palios greeted Inanna as she arrived. She noticed several townspeople tinkering with a contraption she had never seen before. 3 iron tracks, each set 5 metres apart, extended into the grassy plains. Across them lay a broad, rusty metal platform. "They're old quarry rigs," Palios explained. "Similar ones were used millennia ago in the Silver Age to help build cities and temples. Ancient, yet still operational. This setup will carry us across the Pannonian plain," he went on, pointing at the flat expanse before them. "They once transported marble and granite from quarries in the north all the way south." Inanna eyed the weathered machinery. It seemed improbable that such archaic contrivances could ferry her followers, their animals, and supplies so far. "Does anyone here know how to run it?" she asked. "A few, yes," Palios said, undeterred by the rig's corroded state. "All we need is to power it, and Saul's energy will do the rest." He gestured to the shimmering sun above. Glancing at the 4 Brotherhood members, Inanna found no trace of apprehension among them. This eased her own doubts. "Very well," she announced, stepping onto the platform. "Let's begin." 2 identical rigs stood nearby, allowing the entire company, including livestock, to be transported across land that might otherwise take weeks to traverse. The sound of anxious excitement rose among the crowd as Inanna mounted the first platform. Palios took a place at her side, tightening restraints to secure the animals. "Ready, Nin?" he asked. "This is going to be fast." Inanna exhaled a slow breath. "Tell me again how it works." "Magnets," Palios replied, flicking a lever. "They'll accelerate us to around 100 kilometers per hour. At the far end, reverse magnets will bring us to a stop." She swallowed, feeling a surge of wind as the massive rig jolted forward. At first, it moved at a crawl, then, in mere seconds, doubled its speed. Her followers clung to rails or to each other, letting out whoops of excitement mixed with nervous laughter. Underneath, large magnets guided and propelled the load along iron tracks, an ancient technology not dissimilar from some used in Uruk, just on a grander, more rustic scale. With a roar, the cart shot into open plains. Behind them, the second platform was quickly readied for launch, and soon would follow in their wake. The third would bring up the rear, carrying any remaining travellers and supplies. Despite the rig's rattling and the rush of wind, Inanna's heart soared. For all its antiquated construction, the machine performed a small marvel, carrying her people swiftly into a new land, a new chapter of her quest to find Ereshkigal and to preserve Suma's future. Inanna stood at the front of the cart, watching vast green plains flash by at nearly 100 kilometers an hour. These carts, relics from a distant past, had once ferried immense slabs of stone, and now they carried her people across a whole country in hours. Designed for freight rather than human comfort, the open-air platforms rattled and swayed, making for a jarring ride. Yet despite the unease curling in her stomach, Inanna couldn't help marvelling at Panonia's endless flatlands. She had never seen so much open space in one place. "How many more kilometres of this?" she shouted over the wind, turning to Palios. His brow quirked with mild concern. "Close to 400 nin, several hours yet. Still, better than weeks," he added with a quick grin. The warm sun illuminated the rolling fields. Hours slipped by, and while most travellers clung to the cart in quiet resignation, Inanna let her mind drift. Occasionally, she noticed isolated patches of greenery, a scraggly tree or a small bush. Beyond that, the plain stretched into an unbroken horizon. Suddenly, Inanna spotted 2 distant figures. "Palios, pass the scope," she called. He fished a small, handheld viewer from a supplies bag and handed it over gingerly, keen not to drop it onto the rattling tracks below. Pressing the scope to her eye, Inanna discerned a woman carrying a baby, trailed by an older child. The woman glanced up, meeting Inanna's gaze for a fleeting moment, before continuing her trek through grass no higher than her knees. At that point, Isis, a member of the Brotherhood, approached Inanna. "Hunter-gatherers," Isis said. "They look like us, share our biology, yet they're still far removed from who we are." Lowering the scope, Inanna gave Isis a measured glance. "That's a rather strong claim about your fellow humans." Isis offered a wry smile. "They've no sense of the world they're entering. They speak no language we'd understand, have no concept of modern skills or resources. They likely won't survive out here, and if they do, frightened Minionalians await them on the other side. I cannot see it ending well." Inanna's gaze flicked back to the distant family. They'd already vanished from view. "Shouldn't we help those seeking refuge?" she asked, absently gripping her grandmother's locket. "Who exactly should help them? You? Other nations? As Nin, you can enact change, but every action has consequences. If you truly plan to save people so distant from our world, be prepared to shoulder their care for the rest of your life," Isis cautioned. "We don't live in a fair world. Even in a golden age, inequities remain." Inanna's voice rose with conviction. "It can't be easy to cross these plains. No one would do so if they had a choice. They risk everything daily. That woman's desperation means she deserves help." Isis's expression stayed neutral. "What if thousands like her appear? Would you rescue them all? For how long? Until they learn to read, write, or thrive alone? Because if you uproot a creature from its habitat, you bear responsibility for its survival." Inanna gazed back across the plains, wishing she could still see the mother and her children. "I'd protect them until they could stand on their own. That's the duty of a Nin." Isis dipped her head. "Well, that woman isn't one of those you can save today. Once your mission is done, you might dedicate yourself to such things. No one would stop you." For a moment, Inanna turned inward, picturing the family in her mind's eye. Slowly, her thoughts crystallized. "It is not really about her," she murmured. Isis shot her a questioning look. Inanna went on. "She's doing this for her children. Even if she finds no peace, she's gambling on their chance at survival. My mother and grandmother wanted a better life for me than they had. That woman hopes for the same. Survival for her children, no matter what becomes of her." Something flickered in Isis's eyes, an acknowledgement she couldn't quite voice. "I see. I hadn't considered it that way." They rode in silence a while longer. The sun slid behind a growing bed of clouds, and a chill began seeping into the wind. Abruptly, the cart shuddered, its mechanisms protesting. Peleos lifted his scope again, then beamed. "We've arrived!" Inanna steadied herself as the cart's speed dropped. "How does it slow?" "Reverse magnets," Peleos explained. "They'll bring us to a complete stop. Just brace yourself, it's old and hardly reliable." Inanna gripped a metal handhold next to Isis. The ride grew rougher. Within minutes, the huge freight cart screeched and thudded to a halt. Inanna exhaled sharply, relieved to have reached the end of their track. So were most around her, their faces painted with both excitement and nerves. Climbing off, they gathered in clusters on the grass, reclaiming belongings and readying for the next leg of their journey. Lagging behind, Inanna finally hopped down, glancing about. She found Isis gazing at the terrain up ahead, a tableau of ancient woodlands, rocky mountains streaked with glaciers, and waterfalls plunging from snowy heights. "Remarkable," Isis breathed, her eyes glowing. Inanna nodded, awe tinging her voice. "I've never seen snow." This world is so different from mine. Isis gave a small nod. I've travelled in India. You'd see similar wonders there. Such landscapes rarely welcome outsiders. They're brutal, yet breathtaking. A stir from behind drew Inanna's attention. A wave of excitement arose as more people joined them. She heard Palios's voice carrying over the low murmur. "What's happening?" she asked, stepping back toward the temporary camp. Palios peered into the distance with his scope again. "The second cart is here," he said, visibly relieved. "It's slowing now." "Good," Inanna said, thinking of the precious livestock and supplies aboard. "Let's hope it stops safely." Moments later, the rig screeched along the track behind them and ground to a halt. About 20 more people spilled out. Animals followed shortly after. Teams hurried to unload the cargo, reorganizing it at a makeshift station. Pelios ran an inventory check with Osiris from the Brotherhood. As Inanna approached, they looked up. "All in order, Nin," Pelios said without glancing from his list. "We're only waiting for the third and final cart. It should be right behind." Osiris scanned the plains. "No sign of it yet." Pelios checked the sun's position, then consulted a small pocket watch. He exhaled quietly. "They should have arrived by now. They're late." "Could they have chosen to stop somewhere?" Inanna ventured. "Possibly, but there's no reason to," Pelios murmured. Osiris's features tightened. "Ra, our leader, was on that cart." Isis approached, frowning. "He isn't trying to play hero again, is he?" Inanna shot her a puzzled look. "Hero?" She shrugged. "He's a great man, sometimes too charitable for his own good." Just then, Horus, the Brotherhood's fourth member, arrived at a jog. "What's wrong?" Before anyone could answer, someone shouted, "Cart incoming!" and the final platform rumbled into view over the horizon. Horus snorted lightly. "You see? All that fretting for nothing." Gazing through his scope, Pelios stiffened. "Something's not right," he muttered. "No one's on board." Inanna's hand flew to the hilt of her sword. "Prepare for combat!" she called. Soldiers scrambled to ready weapons, forming a defensive line as the cart screeched to a halt. Horus, Isis, and Osiris leapt forward with other soldiers to investigate. Pelios hurried after them. "There should be 30 people here. Where are they?" he called out anxiously. The ramp remained up, indicating nobody had lowered it. Isis paused near Inanna. Her face remained grim. "Nin, brace yourself. It's worse than you think." Unease spiked in Inanna's chest as she advanced with a wave of guards. Climbing the final steps of the cart, she glimpsed something horrifying. Bodies lashed to the cart's wheels. Heads were grotesquely distended by the force of high-speed rotation. Inanna's stomach churned at such cruelty. "I'm sorry," Isis whispered. "You needed to see this." Inanna forced herself to look. Each wheel bore the same gruesome display of men and women who had pledged their loyalty to her, now butchered in an unspeakably savage manner. Pelios caught her eye. "Nin, it is worse on top." She nodded tersely, her heart hammered as she ascended. The metal deck was slick with blood, strewn with limbs. Inanna recognized the lifeless faces of those who had journeyed alongside her from Uruk. "Who would do this?" she asked Isis, her voice nearly cracking. "Neanderthals, most likely," Isis replied, stepping carefully through the gore. "They don't want us here." Horus, meanwhile, knelt by a corpse near the back, slowly turning it over. "It's Ra," he said softly, "his leader." Isis's gaze shifted to another group of bodies on the far side. One was the mother Inanna had glimpsed on the plains, her 2 small children beside her, equally fallen. "Ra must have stopped to help them," she said sadly. And this is the result. It could have been any one of us. Inanna swallowed hard, her eyes burnt. They were watching us then? Likely. We shouldn't remain here, Isis urged. We have to push deeper inland to safety. Though numb and horrified, Inanna managed a nod. Take us somewhere secure, where no more of my people will suffer like this. Horus lifted Ra's body across his shoulders, stepping gingerly around the broken limbs of others. He will be cremated. His soul will still find its way to the stars, to run with our ancestors across the galaxies. Inanna looked back at the endless plains, a tremor of dread curling in her gut. Their mission had become unimaginably dangerous, and she hadn't even reached Ereshkigal yet,